There was a man in Mecca whose name was Al-Khattab. Al-Khattab, he hated this message of Tawheed. So he came to Zayd and he said, Zayd, what is this stupid talk which you are saying? So Zayd began to defend himself. So Al-Khattab, he slapped him on the face. He slapped Zayd. And he said, I will make sure that you do not come into this city. And he made sure he expelled Zayd. And if Zayd would come back, he would have people standing guards on the borders of Mecca just to persecute Zayd and to try to kill him. This is the hate that he had for this man who was preaching Tawheed. So Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, he devised a plan. He used to stay on the mountains in the outskirts of Mecca. And one time when there was a festival, he knew that the people of Quraysh would be busying themselves so they could worship these idols for his big festival. So he snuck back into Mecca. And he found three men who he knew were also upon the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he came to them and he called them together. And he said to them, oh brothers, don't you see? Our people, they are upon nothing. Meaning, that which they worship, that which they believe, it has nothing to stand on. It is not true, it is useless. So let us make a deal amongst ourselves. Let us travel as far and wide as we can so that we can find the religion of truth. This is something amazing. If we were to think about our times, if you wanted to go worship Allah, if you wanted to find the people of Tawheed, you only need to go as far as your local masjid. You only need to go so far as to find where your Muslim community is. But at this time, there was 4 people, none of whom could know anybody who was upon the religion of Allah. Amazing. This is how ingrained these evil ways of idol worship had become in the Arabian Peninsula. So they made a deal amongst themselves that they would travel to find the people who were upon the true religion of Allah. And they all went their ways. We see some of them. One of them, he went to Rome. His name was Uthman, and he became a servant of Caesar's. He was working with Caesar, and he became a Christian. Another man, he became a Christian, and later, at the advent of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he became a Muslim. Then, a'udhu billah, later, when he was in Al-Habash, he again went back to Christianity. Another one of the people, his name was Warqa. And for those who know in the seerah, Warqa, he was this man who embraced Christianity. And when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was declared as a prophet, his prophethood had begun. He had a wife named Khadija radiallahu anha, and she was the cousin of Warqa. So she brought him to Warqa, and Warqa said to him, indeed you are a prophet of Allah. The same message that came to you is the message of Musa and Isa alayhi salam. And he said, if I were with you, I would defend you from what the people are going to do to you. We see Warqa, he knew, as he'd seen in the example before, when the people preach Tawheed, they're always going to face these troubles. They're always going to find people fighting them to try and quell this message of Allah. And Warqa said, if I was there, I would fight with you. And he believed in him. And he died but a few days later. So we see some of these people, in their search for the truth, they found something. Some of them accepted Islam. And we know Warqa has a place in Jannah. The Prophet has said, nobody is to slander Warqa, because he has at least 1 or 2 gardens in Jannah. So he was one of the people who were successful. But Zayd ibn Amr, what happened with Zayd? An amazing story. He went as far as Mosul in Iraq. And he used to speak with many of the Jews and the Christians and the priests and the rabbis and the monks. And he would ask them about their religions. But he eventually came to the conclusion, going as far all the way to Syria, that all of these people had gone astray at some point. As we mentioned, these religions, these books which they had, the Torah, the Injil, they were from Allah, but their message became corrupted. So he found that even the Christians and the Jews, all of them were practicing shirk. They had all gone from Tawheed to shirk. And he said an amazing statement when he was in Mecca. At the time before he had left, he made an amazing statement. He said, I am the only person left on the face of this earth who is worshipping Allah alone. I am the only person on the face of this earth who is following the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Imagine that, brothers and sisters. Imagine that. He was the only person. He wasn't dismayed. He still stuck to his belief in Allah. But he had to travel. He had to work. He had to find the people. And even then, he came to no success. So upon his return to Mecca, some of the Bedouins, some of the Arabs from the desert, they found this man Zayd and they killed him. But just before Zayd died, he uttered an amazing statement. He said, Ya Rabb, O Lord, for that which you have denied me, do not deny at least my son. because he had a son back in Mecca. He's saying, "Oh Allah, that which you have denied me." What has he been denied? He has been denied not the belief in Tawheed, not the mercy of Allah, but he has been denied the Jama'ah. He has been denied having a community to be amongst. This man spent his whole life looking for a community of Tawheed, for the community of believers. And he made dua, "Ya Allah, you've kept this from me. This is an amazing thing." He spent so long looking for this, but he said, at least grant it to my son. And we know his son was an amazing person. His name was Sa'id bin Zayd, radiyallahu anhu. And Sa'id was one of the people who is from the Ashratul Mubashiruna bil Jannah. He was one of the 10 who have been promised Jannah by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And who was Sa'id? Sa'id, we see, he married a woman named Fatima bint al-Khattab. The same man who was the enemy of his father, Sa'id married his daughter. And the two of them, when the prophethood of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam began, they embraced Islam. And they were some of the most staunch of the Muslims. They were one of the strongest of the believers. And we see that Omar, her brother, one time we know he was a person who originally, like his father, used to attack the Muslims. He would attack the believers. He would want to cut down the message of Tawheed. He heard about this, and he heard his sister had embraced Islam. So he went all the way to her house when he found his sister Fatima radiallahu anha with her husband, and they were reading from the Quran. And subhanallah, look at how the mushrikeen, they never differ. What did he do? He came in and he began to hit his sister until Sa'id stepped forward, and in the same way that his father Al-Khattab slapped Sa'id's father Zayd, we find that Omar did exactly the same thing to Sa'id. He slapped him. And there's a lesson in this. There's a lesson, as I said, the way of the mushrikeen, the way of shaitan, it does not change. When you go out and you preach Tawheed to the people, when you tell them about Islam, don't always expect them to say, "What a beautiful religion. Where do I sign up? Let me become Muslim." You will find many of them are harsh with you. Don't be dismayed, brothers and sisters, because this same man, Omar, who was beating the Muslims, persecuting the Muslims, at this very event, he said, "What is this Quran you're reading? What is this thing?" And he began to read from the Quran, and he embraced Islam later in that day. Subhanallah. So never be dismayed in this. When you're preaching the message, if the mushrikeen are hard, it's because, as I've said, this thing which has been put in their heart by the shaitan, this love for their custom and their culture, which is built upon nothing but lies. This is what they're trying to cling to. We just have to show them the beauty of Islam. Do not be dismayed. As I said, we see these amazing people would strive for the message of Tawheed because it was not established at their time. But if you go to Arabia now, can you find even a single person who is not upon the worship of Allah? Can you find a single church or synagogue? Can you find anything but Islam? Of course not, because Islam has been established. From the time of this man, Zayd, he said, "I am the only person on the face of this earth who is worshipping Allah, the true way of Allah." So but a generation later, the whole peninsula was under the rule of Islam. Never be dismayed, brothers and sisters. This message of Tawheed is something which is important to us. It is actually what defines us. And we need to spread this message. Do not think that this nation, it's a kafir nation. Do not think it is bound to be that way. All of the errors that they are upon, where did it come from? It came from the shaitan. We see them worshipping their false gods. It is from the shaitan. They will be hard with you, but you must be patient. And in time, all you have to do is strive as these people did. And we have that advantage that Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, did not have. And that was that we have this jama'ah. We have the community amongst us. And the Prophet ﷺ has said, the believers, they support each other. Like something, bricks in a wall, like a structure. We hold each other together so we can never be cut down.